The story of Yu-Gi-Oh's most hated card by Garret Schier, and I apologize if I mispronounced that. I thought I saw this was mine. I don't know what card this is specifically, but if this is Mystic Mine, well, regardless if it is Mystic Mine, we're about to have a good time. I'm ready for this. Yep, that's Mystic Mine. Oh no, not the mirror match. Oh, Jesse Cotton.
Like many video game communities, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has its split between its casual and competitive audience. Some enjoy their fun strategies or their connections to the television show, while others want to win whatever it takes.
Destroy card in the segment, but yeah, he's cards in your. It's about to get locked out. He's monsters in.
And look, these two communities argue over everything.
Yeah.
They have completely different wants from out of the game. In 2022, though, there was something the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Community could truly get behind. Ban Mystic Mine.
Yeah. Look, as somebody who loved Mine, that card needed to go. That card was so dumb and enabled so many degenerative interactions. Like, the card was unhealthy for the game.
Mystic Mine would be a card that would be so incredibly toxic to Yu-Gi-Oh! It would define the game for a full-on year. While Mystic Mine is on the field, the player with the most monsters can't attack or can't activate monster effects. So big surprise in a card game all about monsters. Yeah, Mystic Mine is pretty good. Nice enough for Mystic Mine, it does destroy itself when both monster counts are equal at the end of the turn. The problem with this, however, is it just creates these little mini games where one player is trying to remove all the monsters on his field. And so, yeah, on paper, this card's pretty toxic. But Mystic Mine would be a card that would go through development, go through generations, from being a gimmicky win condition to decking people out to being the format-defining card in 2022.
I mean, what did I run? I think I ran like Sky Striker, Inspector Border, excuse me. Inspector Border, Mystic Mine. Dude, this thing was so jank. The fact that it even did anything is wild. Just having Mine and Border on board was so funny.
This is the competitive story of Mystic Mine.
Good intro. I liked it. Law and Order.
Mystic Mine's humble beginnings starts in Dark Neostorm. On January 12, 2019, Dark Neostorm released to store shelves in Japan and the Asian market. The dynamic in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that Japan typically gets their sets 3 to 4 months earlier before the rest of the West does. So here in America, Europe, Australia, and wherever else the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG is, we get to see what happens in Asia to try and see, what cards are gonna be good. The most prevalent cards out of Dark Neostorm were the Orcust cards, which would make this deck's popularity skyrocket in terms of meta viability. And soon Orcust would fit itself into a 4-deck format, known as Toss: Thunder Dragon, Orcust, Sky Striker, and Salamangreat.
I mean, a lot of people think fondly back to Toss format, minus mine, of course, right? I don't know. I mean, I was kind of actively playing. Not at a high level, but I mean, it was an okay format. I don't know. I also have a biased view because, like, I come in and out of the game so often, and, like, where I'm at doesn't really play. Like, there are stores who play, like, 1 or 2 of them, and they're, like, a city over. So, like, Gas right now especially is pretty bad. We just don't have a thriving community. It's kind of just the same, like, 10 faces. Kind of gets a little stale. Toss was fine. I mean, it was an okay format. I know a lot of people like it. Wasn't my preferred. I'd probably go play Hat format if I'm being honest. But, I mean, that's just preference at that point. I also, like, play in, competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm whatever the current format is rather than playing retro formats.
And throughout the next couple months of Dark Neostorm's format, these 4 decks would reign supreme over Asia, and the TCG would watch. However, there was something going on in the OCG with this card called Mystic Mine.
No, 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 no. Wait.
At release, mine was seen as the central component in this strange, like, tiered but largely unexplored control deck that was just sort of difficult for individuals to get a grasp on because it required not only playing cards that truly individuals had never heard of, but also required like understanding game states and advantages in a way that Yu-Gi-Oh does not train you.
I don't think that's a negative by default though. Like, this is not me really being devil's advocate. Like, if you have, I don't know, let's say you have 10 mechanics that you're dealing with in a phase, and Yu-Gi-Oh really only deals with like 6 of them, but this deck is dealing with the 4 that you don't often deal with, that is kind of a skishu moment, right? Like, L5R's, the LCG they try to do, not original AEG, but like Fantasy Flight's about 2020, their LCG. Like, Crab Clan used like all like 17, I think it was like 17 like steps or something in combat. Like, Crab Clan used all of it. If you played any other clan, like I played Scorpion Clan, Buddy played Crane Clan, right? People were playing Dragon Clan because Dragon Clan was clearly the favorite, right? Like, no other clan, no other deck used that many phases in combat. But Crab Clan did. And, like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think at that point, like, yeah, there is a skishu involved in that. Like, I see this. I look at, it's just spells and traps. I literally see No Face from, there was a deck, L5R Emperor Edition called No Face. It, like, played, like, no personalities because it just sent your dudes home. Like, you could not engage with this deck. So, I mean, eventually the cards got banned, so we reached a similar like game state, right? Where, hey, these cards are kind of issues, therefore causing AEG at the time to ban cards that were involved in No Face. They also banned Kalani's Landing as well, because Kalani was absolutely disgusting. Nobody played L5R, nobody cares. The few that did are absolute legends. Point being, I don't think it's inherently a negative. In context of this video, I would agree. When we look at the complaint, this tests players in ways that were not usually tested. That kind of reads like a Reddit comment, if that makes sense, right? Like, I don't know how to word it, but in context of mine was absolutely like unquestionably unhealthy for the game.
And it's unfortunately just a couple of months after Darkness Neostorm released, I believe with mine, Mystic Mine Burn as a strategy was born.
3 Extravagance, 3 Demise, and 3 Duality. After that are 3...
And such was the evolution of Mystic Mine stun decks. Now, a stun deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the complete antithesis of a card game. The whole point is to stop your opponent from playing the game and you basically doing nothing. The whole point of this Mystic Mine deck was to stun your opponent, stop them from playing the game, and then resolve a bunch of trap cards that inflict damage to your opponent over the course of the game. While, of course, if your opponent just has the out to Mystic Mine, that being a card that can remove it from the field, allowing them to then play, well, the strategy would kind of just go in the tank.
So, I actually had this happen on stream where somebody got upset, because I play Yubel. I'm notoriously a Yubel player. And yeah, I have Nightmare Pain up pretty much constantly, right? And I had somebody complain that, like, the deck is broken. I was playing Master Duel at the time. I don't know. I just don't enjoy Master Duel. The interactions just aren't... I like face-to-face TCG. But the complaint was that the deck is broken because of Nightmare Pain. To which I immediately responded, have you considered running back row hate? Like, on one hand, I get it. And you do, like, I mean, like, I get it. Running, like, Mystic Mine, running, like Galaxy Cyclone, Twin Tornado, right? Like, I get it. You're running bricks, right? And there are things that, like, decks that have it searchable, right? Like Sky Striker, right? Jamming Waves, Afterburner, right? Like, these can hit back row in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, I get that not every deck wants to play it, but at what point do you just, like, I don't know, Link 2 run the Nightmare Phoenix? At what point do you start bringing back row hate? Because at that point, that's it reads to the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh logic, because competitive Yu-Gi-Oh logic, as I understand it, is that you hyper specialize, you hyper tune your deck for the event you're going to. You are aware that your deck will have checks. You're aware that your deck will especially have counters. And if you go up against that counter, you're just taking the L. So you'll go X in like 2, but you still top cut, right? Because at that point you've hyper specialized. But like, yeah, you're still taking the long. Like that's as I understand the hyper high levels of competitive play in Yu-Gi-Oh. Competitive Yu-Gi-Oh is a strange place, right? So this reads very much similar to that mentality of, wow, Mystic Mine sucks, and or Nightmare Pain sucks. This deck is broken. Have you considered running back row hate? I very much keep seeing this thing crop up, and I wonder if it's actually like a Yu-Gi-Oh-ism. Because, like, I get it, not being able to tutor things, spot removal back row, like, I mean, when you could, I don't know, like, omni-negate something. I get, like, the cost-benefit analysis here. With mine specifically, yeah, I get it, and you're wanting to protect the mine, right? Like, I see why this is a problem. But especially after Mystic Mine format, how are we still running into people who, like, have issues with back row like that? I mean, like, Harpy's Feather Duster is limited, don't get me wrong, but, like, we have other tools in the format, right? It's just, it's so weird to me. Like, I don't know. I also, like, while I, like, try to play at a competitive level, I don't play in big events. I'm sure somebody would be able to really outline this better than I can, but this is a consistent problem I'm noticing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that back row gets out of hand, and people just kind of let it happen, if that makes sense. And obviously, like the Solemn, right? Like, they're gonna have ways to protect it. I don't know. It feels like a lack of planning in certain aspects.
Well, a lot of people find a lot of enjoyment flipping a bunch of floodgates against their opponent and watching them, you know, get a little angry.
I would.
Mystic Mine Burn would become a deck that could cheese out a couple of wins. So in May, when Dark Neostorm finally released, Mystic Mine as a win condition as its own deck was seen as just a bit of a gimmick. But there were murmurs about Mystic Mine as a card being theoretically absolutely insane versus the now very powerful Danger Thunder Dragon deck.
I remember that.
The reason being is that Danger Thunder Dragon runs nearly no spell cards. They are a deck sometimes consisting of 37 monsters and 3 copies of a draw card called Sekka's Light, which reads you can't activate spell cards for the rest of the duel.
And with most of the removal cards for Mystic Mine being spell cards, well, you can kind of see how things can go off the rails when Thunder Dragon faces a Mystic Mine.
So a card like Mystic Mine that strictly targets monsters only, all of a sudden becomes unbeatable against this deck.
I mean, at that point, that match, that's just the counter to the matchup, though, right? Like, and at that point, that is going to absolutely, going to affect, you know, especially like table 500s and stuff. But even then, like tier 1, tier 2 decks, right? That will also just lock them out of the game, right? So not only are you taking out the meta threat, but now you're also locking other decks out of the game, and therefore leading into this like stagnation loop, right?
So theoretically, you just slap Mystic Mine on the field and, well, your deck doesn't run these burn trap cards, though, if you're not playing the Mystic Mine burn deck. So eventually, you're going to have to try and, like, break the board and play the game, right? Enter Yu-Gi-Oh's alternate win condition.
Deck out.
Make a difference if you, the player, are not allowed to take certain actions.
Droll.
We'll pass 6 cards.
That one's weird.
Certain actions.
I would consider that a play. I would consider that a play 100%. At minimum, he has also revealed Droll and Lockbird to his opponent. But then again, I wouldn't say I'm a rule shark. I'm very black and white in interactions.
We'll pass 6 cards.
Draw face, on my face.
At minimum, you have now changed the game state because now your opponent knows at least one card in your hand is Droll and Lockbird. That gave open information to your opponent, which now changes your opponent's play. That's why I have issues with that.
And here's the thing, like, there's no way to...
Vanities. Is that Majesties? Dude, so good. I love it. Bro, I want this format. Dude, this is so fun. I actually love this. I love when the game state is just so degenerate. Wonderful.
He's wasting a little bit of time. He's not going to have an out and concedes game 1.
Wonderful.
Absolutely nothing he could do after that.
So how these Mystic Mine strategies would work is typically Thunder Dragon would assemble a full combo, a bunch of different negates and whatever on their first turn. Your goal, as someone who has Mystic Mine in their grip, is going to bait out these negates in sequence and then drop Mystic Mine on the field.
Yeah.
Alright, your Thunder Dragon opponent can no longer out this card. So what happens next? Well, in theory, since your Thunder Dragon opponent cannot get rid of Mystic Mine or alter the number of monster counts to equal yours, which theoretically is 0, they would go ahead and pass turn right back to you. You, seeing that your opponent has no out, passes right back to them. Your Thunder Dragon opponent draws for turn.
Drop pass.
We're going to do this like 20 to 30 more times.
Drop pass.
And
drop
as
pass.
the Thunder Dragon opponent attempts to draw with no more cards remaining in his deck, he loses the game via deck out. But that was all theory. Would it actually work?
YCS before that point, or before the WCQ with the set legal, that was Knoxville. And
You may or may not have won.
yeah, we knew about Mystic Mine for that. And my testing group, we wanted to intentionally play a deck that didn't have anything crazy new in it, any new innovations really, because we wanted to save stuff for the points playoff and for the WCQ. We wanted to go to Worlds. That's the keeping our eye on the prize. And we expected many of the better players to do the same. So I assumed a lot of the better players would not play Mystic Mine outside of the usual context, because the usual context in OCG was used for Mystic Mine burn decks. But many of the better players here obviously knew that. The thing is though, some people did top Knoxville with these Mystic Mine and their like Orcus deck, for example. I don't remember who did, but I'm pretty sure there were a couple people who did. And it kind of was like a damn, because the kind of cat's out of the bag. You don't have to play this in a stall deck. You can play it in pretty much anything. And it meant for WCQ format, you'd be an idiot if you didn't have an out to Mystic Mine like at any kind of corner.
I mean, at this point, it almost feels like the Max C effect, right? Because in the OCG, whether you play Max, because it's legal in the OCG, right? Even if you don't play Max C, you have to be cognizant that Max C is in the format, right? So this card by itself warps the format. Therefore, we're seeing in Mine, you could be playing Mine, you could not be playing Mine. Regardless of whether you're playing Mine or not, you have to have an out to Mystic Mine. Because someone at that event is playing Mystic Mine. It warps the format around it.
So on June 21st, almost a month after YCS Knoxville, and the day before the main event of the NAWCQ, there is the World's Points Playoff. This tournament includes the top 32 circuit points leaders. They then engage in a brutal single elimination bracket, where the top 2 finishers qualify for the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. And so fresh off of his YCS win, Jesse Cotton again would uncork a card that was seen as just a gimmick and turn it into a win condition.
I really, really liked my
Bro, I miss multiple terraformings. Oh, I wish we'd go back to that.
my striker deck. I almost consider like my magnum opus. Whenever we're building a deck, you want to look for the flaws of the deck and then try and solve the problems. And every single problem I encountered, I worked my ass off to try and find a solution, and I feel like I did for that deck. I found solutions to Black Garden, which was the one that I was worried with Sky Striker, right? Because people were playing these field spell engines, and they'd have Mystic Mine for these Thunder decks, and then it'd say, okay, well, if we're versus Striker, let's put Black Garden in and then give them tokens. So my logic was, okay, we can lean into beating these now really aggro combo decks with Trap Trick, Metaverse, Mystic Mine, but now we can turn the Trap Tricks into Sanctums and some of the Scythe, and when they give us the tokens they gave us will now kill them because they can't play anymore. They have to pass, give with 4 tokens on my field, and then they die. So that's like one solution we came up with. Like, how do we win the mirror match now with so many cards not like kind of geared towards the mirror? And Utopia Double was the surprise factor there. So it was a whole kind of a string of things together.
Sky Strikers have a lot of inherent synergy with Mystic Mine. Sky Strikers are a control deck that only really need to use one monster at a time. So theoretically, you could play underneath your own Mystic Mine, as well as you can shut off your own Mystic Mine by activating another field spell right on top of it. Jesse Cotton rolled up to the World's Points Playoffs and played a total of 10 ways to fetch Mystic Mine from his deck. 3 copies of Trap Trick, 3 copies of Metaverse, 3 copies of Mystic Mine, and 2 terraforming. Wait, that's 11. He also played a very funny tech called Double or Nothing. It allows you to make a monster that can attack for 10,000 damage. So if your opponent's locked underneath Mystic Mine, you just attack with a monster that has less than 2,000 attack and hit them for 8,000 damage through their own card.
It's the funny red button. I love that, actually. That's a nice flourish.
And so with this absolutely obscene concoction, Jesse Cotton would place in the top 2 and qualify for the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. But now we go into a bit of a conundrum. Mystic Mine, as many other format warping cards, go through this sort of vicious cycle. When the card is good, people prepare for it, and therefore the card is bad. And then when people don't prepare for it because the card is theoretically bad, then the card becomes good. However, there were certain decks in this format that just simply couldn't play the outs to Mystic Mine, like Danger Thunder Dragon, so Mystic Mine then became a viable tech card to play in the format. However, as the premier event season ended, no one truly got to experiment with the Jesse Cotton's Mystic Mine deck. Mystic Mine and Sky Shark are, again, known quantity, but just not enough time to experiment, because as the July ban list rolled around, Metaverse got limited down to 1. That reduces the total copies of Mystic Mine in your deck from 11 to just 6, and arguably the best way to bring Mystic Mine out from your deck was Metaverse, because you can do it during your opponent's turn. So after the ban list, Mystic Mine decks would just get worse. Now they're more inconsistent in terms of their win condition, and so it doesn't really make sense to commit so many cards to a strategy that might not work and you can't resolve every single game.
No, hear me out, though. The logic on this is flawless. It's still funny to Mystic Mine the opponent, and it's still funny to watch them draw pass like 5 times in a row. That's the logic here.
And so Mystic Mine would fade from competitive relevancy, and more so just be considered a gimmick. Enter Jeff Leonard.
Actually,
So
no,
by
something about-
Orlando, I was feeling really good. You know, we had been traveling to these events, and it had been really fantastic to see like a third-party infrastructure sort of develop around Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there aren't very many of those in Yu-Gi-Oh's history. You know, there's no like Star City games of Yu-Gi-Oh! The closest we get basically is ARG in 2015 and Pro Play Games in like 2019. So it's this burgeoning, incredible new tournament series that is attracting a lot of players, not only from like the areas where they would do events, but also dedicated PPG grinders. They had their own equivalent of a nationals season. So some people would come to every single event. And one of those people was Jeff Leonard. Jeff learned Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically as a way to hang out with his kid. But he was frustrated that combo decks existed. And there was so little he felt he could engage with. And so Jeff Leonard was like, well, forget it. I'm not even going to engage with that part of the game. I'm just going to play stun decks.
You know what? I have nothing but respect for that. I can respect that mentality.
And he functionally dedicated like months of his time to playing exactly Mystic Mine. And he got like really good at it.
Can we also just acknowledge the fact, too, that we've talked about this multiple times, but if you're just joining us here in the stream, Jeff is a father to another one of the competitors, and, you know, here he is.
This is his Solomon Moto moment.
Yeah, this is Grandpa Moto at its finest.
Have one draw step.
If Nicholas has a way to win this on the last turn that I am not aware of, there's a Cyclone.
There's a Cyclone.
That's a Cyclone right there. Putting it on the bottom.
Jeff says, oh, you won't be drawing that card. It says, final countdown.
Oh my god, final countdown resolved its win condition. Jeff has just taken game number 1.
I'm losing my mind.
Oh.
This is it.
I actually really love this. Dude, this is right up my alley. I don't know, dude. Like, I play Yubel just because it plays... Well, one, I love Yubel. Loved Yubel ever since GX, right? But, like, I play it because it plays the game in a different way. Otherwise, I'd probably play something beat down like Blue Eyes, if I'm being completely honest, right? Like, even in Magic the Gathering, I don't actually play Magic the Gathering. I play Tron, okay? 1 + 1 = 7. This just makes sense, okay? Like, I'm not even playing the game correctly at that point. Like, so something like this resonates with me. I just, it's so, because Yubel kind of plays the game a little bit in reverse, right? Like, you're very much wanting your opponent to swing into you so that they damage themselves, right? Like, and it has things to make that happen. I mean, if I'm going to be honest, like, dude, the Fiendsmith line and stuff like that, I like it, but, like, I don't even know the full combo, if I'm being honest. I don't even know if I want to stick with Fiendsmith. I mean, you know, I know that, like, pure Yubel will only go so far. I don't know, dude. I like Yubel. That's about it. Y'all can have your Zodiac, Drident, Drytron, Soul Sword, whatever. This is like 5 different meta decks from across the game's history. Oh my god. No, this is fun though. I love this. I have no understanding of who Jeff Leonard is, but the fact that he's just like, no, I don't think you understand. We're playing Mystic Mine. We're gonna drag this game down to a screeching halt. I have respect for you.
My God, Jeff is 1 win away from top 8.
If you're Jeff, do you think you shotgun a Cursed Seal if you have it
The
on
Field
this
Bearer too.
engage?
If you have, honestly, I would. I feel like in the long term,
I wouldn't.
It depends on what your other back row is. That's a Ray.
You fool!
Immediately flip that metaverse.
The second Ash Blossom.
Bruh.
Oh, Jeff. He's talking about Prohibition real quickly. I'm sure it's naming a card that Nicholas isn't likely to send. And he'll
Jeff's
concede.
just
He
gonna
says
see.
there's no way.
That's just gonna be it. But you
Oh,
know
wow.
what? Wow. I mean,
Honestly, yeah. Like, he keeps his plays quick and simple though. Like, I don't know. One of the big stressors I've run into, especially on Master Duel, is synchro decks. Especially when they like have to sit there and they have to like scroll through stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, I have to read cards sometimes too. Antithetical as that is to being a Yu-Gi-Oh player, right? Like, I don't know. I'm so impatient when I have to watch someone spend 10 minutes synchro climbing, and then like it kind of amounts to a nothing burger of a game state after that. That's a lot of time investment for me to just be like, we could have solved this in like 5 minutes.
Jeff Leonard would set the Yu-Gi-Oh community on fire. It wasn't that he was just winning with Mystic Mind Burn, but just how happy and what his demeanor was, what he represented to the game. He was good at his little stun deck and brought about the brand that anyone can play Yu-Gi-Oh. He understood the mechanics of his stun deck to a very high level, and he was a genuine threat in these tournaments.
Everyone knew he was on the deck and had the capacity to top. People were like bringing Cursed Seal of the Forbidden Spells in their like 2020 Magician Souls Spiral side decks.
Bro, they're actually having to side deck for this man specifically. That's a win.
At the Pro Play Games Invitational because they had to beat Jeff Leonard if they saw him in bracket.
No. Mystic Mind Burn was not good. That was
Just you. What's the card that released in Maze of Muertos? Illusion Gate. Just you wait till I get my copies of Illusion Gate and I shotgun that from you, Bell. Just you wait, chat.
still very much the case. It still required a little bit of luck to take you down to the finish line. But Jeff Leonard vastly increased the popularity of the deck. It went from being just a cancerous gimmick to people wanting to replicate the success of the most uninteractive deck in like the last 3 years. So for the next year, Mystic Mind would never truly see widespread play outside of its hermit crab shell of Mystic Mind Burn. Cauldron of the Old Man cooking, Field Barrier protecting, Demise of the Land fetching, Mystic Mind. So Mind Burn would see a little bit of competitive success here and there. It couldn't hang on to be like one of the best decks, but definitely could cheese a few wins over the course of a 9-round tournament. And so a ban list in January of 2020 would put an end to Yu-Gi-Oh's Eternal format. The 8-month-long tenure of 4 decks, Salamangreat, Orcus, Sky Striker, and Thunder Dragon, would be nuked to unplayability.
Hi, Electromite. Dude, we've talked about it before. Like, those cards were designed with MR4 in mind, right? Like Electromite, Halki Fibrax, Anaconda. I always forget what the fourth one is. But they were designed just from the era of the game when, like, you had to use Link monsters to enable the extra deck. You could only, like, you had to, like, link out to have more extra deck mechanics. So yeah, no wonder why things like Electromite and Hucky Fibrax end up on the ban list. Like, they were designed with a completely different master rule in mind. I think Vert was 1 for the longest time. I'd have to check its current status. Like, oh, dude, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is such a silly game.
But Mystic Mine as a card still couldn't find success even in a post-toss environment.
It had Eldritch and Adamancipator, and while Mystic Mine was good against Adamancipator, Eldritch just plays 3 Conquistador inherently. And like,
you know, I need to pick up Eldritch. This is what I need to do. I just need to pick up Eldritch and just sleaze with Eldritch. Is this the Tron equivalent?
Plus, Adamancipator, if going first, you just set up so many negates and disruption that it didn't feel that great playing Mystic Mine when your opponent has all this interruption and not even good into half of the decks.
As we were all penned up in our households, forced to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Through the almighty
Remote duel.
webcam, Mystic Mind would again continue to undergo the vicious cycle. Prepare for it or don't. It wasn't like this card was a secret or anything, but people thought about it in this very black and white way. Will people prepare for it or not? And if people do prepare for it, therefore it is bad. And making the card theoretically worse alongside the list of decks that would be prepared for it is the availability of in-engine removal. One way Mystic Mine was used during the lockdown era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was to play it in going second decks. The goal would be, again, to force out the majority of the negates from your opponent, and then drop a Mystic Mine on the field and hope to play, or even just OTK them through the mine. So Mystic Mine going second could be this absolutely, comeback card to beat these full comboed out fields, just in the worst ways possible. As the year turned 2022 and we all emerged out from our homes, out into the real world to play some in-person Yu-Gi-Oh!, Mystic Mine would still find itself in the predicament. We kick off with Yugioh Charlotte, Elijah Green taking the event with a souped-up Prank Kids deck. This is actually just about when I started to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. I had been a casual player from the years 2015 to 2020.
I was out of the format at this point. I think after Toss, I left the game for a bit. Like, I say I leave, but I get busy with other things. I think I was working at a warehouse at that time. Yeah. I don't actively know people around me who play the games I play, and that's been a big problem. Like, I'll play Pokemon. I'll play competitive Pokemon. I'll play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! I'll play L5R, and I'll play Naruto CCG to this day. But, as it turns out, even if you can supply extra decks and extra game cards and stuff, you have to actually have people who want to actively play the game. And that's been a weirdly, it's been a weird progress gate. I can probably do an entire 8-man tournament by just handing people decks, right? But that's the thing is if people don't actively want to play Yu-Gi-Oh, it's not like you can force them to play Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Very strange.
Playing a pet deck at locals and being angry at meta players because I couldn't get the deck.
Yeah.
I had a $100 anti-meta deck that I played for 3 years. But I think I watched an MBT video around this time, and I kind of gave the look, the Green Goblin mask up onto the shelf to go ahead and bring back and play the game.
Oh shit! Here we go again.
So just around this time, I'm giving the side eye to this to the deck box. So a predicament was going on overseas.
Not the Aussies.
Jonah Singer, Peter Mitros, and Po Jang were just a group of Australian Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. But stomping around in Australia, isolated from the rest of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community, wasn't enough for them. And so YCS Hartford was the target here for the Australians. It'd be their first overseas YCS. Or would it?
Oh.
Hello everyone, my name is Jonah, or online known as Jojo or Jojo ASMR. Initially, Poe wasn't even going to go to the YCS. I just floated the idea amongst the three of us saying, it'd be fun to travel internationally to play at one of these events. And during this time, Peter and I were doing really well with the Prank Kid Brave DPE deck. We were just really
I miss peak DPE.
Good with the deck. We were doing really well at regionals with it, and Poe was just playing his little Sentuki, his little Sky Strikers in the corner, just having fun and taking it easy. And so originally Poe was a bit lazy to go on the trip, in all honesty, but he saw that we were really enthusiastic, so he thought last minute he'll book his tickets and come along. So on the day of the trip, we're at the international terminal, Poe, Peter and I. Peter and I get through customs no problem, but Poe hasn't filled out his visa, he realized, or he filled it out incorrectly or something, and it takes up to 24 to 48 hours to get it approved when you submit it. So it's an hour before the flight, Poe hasn't signed his visa, so we're getting called on the intercom, like, this is the final call for the flight, and we're sitting just at the international terminal waiting for our flight, and we're thinking there's no way Poe is going to make it. And I have this video recording where we're sitting at this like lunch table, I suppose, and we found this like little tourist toy kangaroo that you get at one of those like tourist places, and we just sat it down next to us, like thinking this was Poe. And then magically Poe spawns like 1 minute before the plane takes off. And so that was pretty funny. But the worst part was that when we get on this 17-hour flight from Sydney to America, as the plane takes off, just before the internet cell goes out, the ban list drops.
No, bro, that's a bad feeling. You're so prepped, you're so ready. Bam, you get the ban list. Oh, dude, that's rough.
Peter and I are scrambling because Meow Moo has just been banned. The YCS, for context, is like less than 7 days away. And Poe just sits there saying, oh, my deck's broken now.
After the May 2022 ban list, Prank Kids was no longer a playable deck. A strategy that made up a third of YCS Charlotte's top cut was now just, you couldn't play it. Alongside extra deck staples like Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon and Verte Anaconda also hitting the ban list, putting it...
Verte is... Dude, Verte enables some weird stuff, especially with Dragoon and stuff. I mean, Vert has more utility than just Dragoon, but yeah, Vert is kind of a problem. Once again, card developed under Master Rule 4, right, to help with extra deck summoning. This kind of reminds me of Teraba from Destiny 2, right? Like, it genuinely, like... What is it Destiny 2 players do? Because Bungie looks at usage statistics and will buff / nerf things based on usage statistics. Although more often than not, it ends up being nerfs, honestly. And so, like, you know, Teraba users, Teraba mains will just be like, guys, let's keep the Teraba usage pretty low. That way, Bungie can't nerf it, right? Teraba's a solar SMG. It was a drop from... I think it was Crown of Sara, right? It's not even in the game. The raid's not in the game anymore, but you can still get it. But it's just really funny because it's like you're playing a thing and you're just flying under the radar. So then everyone's going, "Oh my god, this is so broken!" And then they get smacked by the ban list, and you're just sitting there, thumbs up, smiling.
End to random small commitment combo piles to add lots of recursion to these random decks.
And everyone was scrambling to try and solve the format, but most people were just going back to their comfort picks like Sword Soul, like Despia, as neither of those decks were touched. I'm trying to figure out what deck I'm going to play. Peter is also in the same boat, but he also has his Sky Striker cards just in case. And Poe's just sitting there chilling, not even testing. He has his little Sentuki deck, his Sky Striker cards. And I'm talking with Peter, I'm trying to figure out, like, what are we going to play? And I just remember one night when I was saying to Peter, okay, I'm going to sleep, and Peter was testing some ABC, Therion, Brave, Punk variant, and he says, I'm going to test this deck all night long. And I see him start sleeving the cards up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep. I wake up the next morning, I go to the living room. All of the ABC cards, all the Therion cards are just unsleeved, and he's just fully sleeved a Sky Striker deck.
So the one issue with this entire format is that it is completely monster focused.
Somehow people just forgot that Mystic Mine was unbanned.
Despia literally had no way to get rid of a Mystic Mine in their entire main deck. Sword Soul had Sword Soul Blackout, and that's a hope and a prayer. That's a one-of in the deck that needs more setup.
But furthermore, most of the combo decks that were siding 3 Mine, most of them played Mine as a counter to combo decks to deck them out, but how Mine was abused in Sky Striker was completely different. And the most broken card as well being Demise of the Land. Activating 1 Demise of the Land into Mystic Mine, that's already 2 spells for engage. Like, we always just assume there'd be 1 Cosmic Cyclone at least somewhere in the deck post-side, and so you have to play eventually. So this idea that they were just like decking out people with Mystic Mine was not real.
Yes, the deck out can happen here or there, but if you just assume that you will deck your opponent out, and then suddenly your opponent has a copy of Cosmic Cyclone in their deck, you just lose.
Yeah, I mean, so at this point, it sounds like they're just going to be using it more for the interrupt potential, right? Like, Mine is going to facilitate your actual endgame, right? So in Striker, if you're just, I don't know, let's say going Kagari, get search off, going probably Hayate at that point, smack, end on Shizuku, get your search off, right? Like, I feel like if you're doing it under Mine, as I played Mine and Striker for a minute. I never actually got to play it because I was just busy working at the time. But like, at least the theory made sense to me. Like, it interrupts your opponent's board state long enough for you to actually get your plays done.
Those kind of risks is not how you're going to win a 15-plus round tournament.
No.
But yes, it does involve passing back and forth for just a little bit. So in YCS Hartford, Poe and Peter entered with the Format Destroyer. 3 Mystic Mine, Terraforming, a Metaverse, 3 copies of Demise of the Land, a weird field spell tech card that people don't really want to play. Oh, and it gets even worse. 3 copies of Trap Tricks and 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier. I changed my mind. This is a glorified stun deck. I mean, what makes this deck even crazier is the fact you're playing trap cards in 2022 in your main deck. Trap cards seen as the worst type of card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because
they kind of are, though. Like, you have to be cracked to be a trap card. That's why we have Infinite Impermanence. That's why we have the Dominus things, right? The Dominus Impulse and whatever the other one is. Because, like, yeah, you shut yourself out of a specific type, but if you don't play that type, do you really care?
They're just slow. But I guess if your trap cards are good enough and you can slow down the game enough,
yeah,
your trap cards become pretty good.
Yeah, skill drain's great.
So now Jesse Cotton's prototype from 3 years ago was going to change the course of Yu-Gi-Oh!
One there by Poe, really on the back of Mystic Mine, right? That is what his deck's built to do. We saw even when he was 7-3, even plays cards like Demise of the Land, right, to like support that further.
There's the card drawn was Ray. The judge is clarifying the position for everyone here. Token Collector was activated, token onto the summon of the Hornet Drones, removing the Hornet Drones from the field. Ray is then normal summon, going to be able to link summon Striker Ace Kagari. Yeah, this Engage is going to draw a card, and I think likely he's going to go after that access code talker, making it back to 2300, or just getting the Ray back. He's going to send it to gain 1,000, and then that is enough. Poe is going to move on into top 4.
Good stuff.
Incredible game. Incredible. Yeah. That was one of the best games I've seen so far today. That was super cool.
Yeah. So he declares fusion monsters here, and that's going to negate the effect of Lebellion.
Oh, I love D-Berry. Oh my god, dude. I love stuff like that. Konami hates stuff like that, though. They take away my skill drain. They take away my D barrier. I think I can't remember. I thought that flirted on the ban list for a while. I can't remember. I'd have to look at the actual list. Oh man, I clearly just need to play stun. That's my calling.
See it in his face. You can see it.
And that's it.
Good stuff.
Minutes away from missing a flight to winning a YCS halfway around the world. However, Poe and Peter were not the only people to find out that Mystic Mine was a really good card this format.
Mine at this point, and at that point on, was no longer a card to deck people out. if your deck inherently played field spells already, it gave you another tool to help you slow down the pace of the game and just give you more ways to come back possibly.
There were other...
Yeah, I mean, so would you argue this is the same logic where how people were using Vanity's Emptiness when it was legal, right? Like, you're getting rid of the Vanity's Emptiness. Like, you're not playing under Vanities. What you're doing is you're activating Vanities in response to your opponent trying to special summon or, like, trying to get their plays off. Therefore, you lock them out for the turn, right? Or you lock them out for the remainder of Vanities being on the field, right? That's kind of how that reads to me. It's similar enough logic.
Decks that cropped up in Top Cut that also had Mystic Mine in their deck list. A couple of Fluanderies lists and combo piles would also consider playing the card. And a lot of people, and I'll say, a lot of people, saw just how good it was. Welcome to the North American World Championship qualifier.
I can't wait for this. It's gonna be silly.
Look, I know it wouldn't take a lot of effort to edit another one of these, but nah. Going into the NAWCQ, it was an exceptionally diverse 20 deck format.
Wow, that's actually a really versatile. There's a lot of variance there. Actually, that's kind of wild.
And it all devolved into a Mystic Mine minigame.
Did I just see branded Eldritch? No, branded Plant. Yeah, branded Eldritch. I had not thought about that.
20 deck format. And it all devolved into a Mystic Mine minigame. Nearly every top-level player had a copy of Mystic Mine of their deck. It didn't matter if you're playing Sky Striker anymore. Mystic Mine was just a good card. And that is even when people were preparing against the card. Why was Mystic Mine good? I thought if people prepared for the card, it was a lot worse. And so while we are in a very monster-heavy format, Mystic Mine just does ask your opponent the question, do you have a Cosmic Cyclone? If not, a player is able to come back into the game, recoup the card advantage, and break the Mystic Mine when they feel like it. It didn't matter if you prepared for it. You had to draw one of your unsearchable outs.
And it's like people just don't like Mystic Mine because it's not fun, and that part is true. The game is better off without Mystic Mine, even if it could be healthy in some formats. It's just not fun. The games that it exists aren't fun.
Hard agree. Don't get me wrong. As somebody who's a Mystic Mine fan, I hard agree with this statement. Even if Mine could be healthy in some formats, overall, I think the game is in a healthier spot. Then again, I don't know. Then again, we gave up Mine for Dude, I hate Link Ones. Link Ones are one of the worst decisions they've ever really made. Link Ones are just bad for the game. Travis, you've had love videos. Hey, thank you. Appreciate that. The progression series was great. I don't know, dude. It's Mine was bad. Mine needed to go. I would defend that. I think Mine being gone from the game is a good thing. Konami has also made other interesting decisions, but we can take those as it comes. Mine needs to not be a standard, if that makes sense.
They're not good for viewers. They're not good for players.
No.
So it shouldn't exist because of that reason.
Yes, there is skill involved. You can't go to try and deck everyone out.
Right.
But just the feeling of staring at your opponent and saying pass for 10 turns straight, and then getting killed with your opponent having 7 cards in hand to break your empty board, that feels pretty bad. So Hansel Aguero would win the North American World Championship qualifier with Sword Soul. 3 copies of Mystic Mine in the main. There would be a short break in the action until the EUWCQ just a month later. The Yu-Gi-Oh community had a month to think about whether they wanted to play Mystic Mine. Nah, I'm not going to edit another one of these. At the EUWCQ, it was exactly the same. Mystic Mine was now the best board breaker in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! It had evolved out of its shell of being this gimmicky win condition and now could be played in any deck. It's a way to get yourself established versus your opponent's monster-focused field. When it's activated, all of a sudden it becomes a scramble to try and clear your entire field of monsters so that Mystic Mine destroys itself, or you draw a Cosmic Cyclone, or you get decked out. Mystic Mine sucks.
Yeah.
And now it was the worst
best tool in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it epitomized the summer of 2022. But that's not even the worst part about Mystic Mine.
I feel like at this point in the metagame, like, people are going to absolutely hate Mystic Mine, but they have to play it just to be able to deny their opponent and cement their own advantage, right? I very much feel like you're going to hate it. You're going to hate playing Mine, or a lot of players are going to hate playing Mine, but it's just such a good option.
Mine. 1 week after the EUWCQ, the defining chapter of Mystic Mine is about to begin.
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember what the meta was back in the day. I still think that, especially because of how prevalent just back row is even to this day, right? You have to, in some way, shape, or form, have a game plan, right? If your deck gets outed by Yubel dropping its continuous spell, right? Nightmare Pain, you have to have a response to that. Because what happens if it's not Yubel? What happens if it's insert? I'm sure Adventure's still played in some capacity, right? That continuous does things, right? What about wiping an opponent's field spell, denying them advantage, right? Like, you have to have some sort of out, right? Whether in archetype or out of archetype, right? It just makes sense to have an answer for problematic things like that.
So since COVID had happened, I was getting told I was washed because I hadn't topped any events. I kind of bubbled like Charlotte because I lost because of the clock on the bubble on a feature match. And then I hadn't topped at all since COVID. It can be a bit discouraging. So I remember I wasn't testing much for the event. And I really wanted to go to Brazil. And I was about to play Eldritch because I'm like, whatever. I just didn't care. And I showed up and left my deck at home. And I'm like, okay, well, what else am I playing now? And then I saw what went on at Euros and the innovations. I saw like Herman Hansen, whatever's Danger Tier deck. And then I knew Mystic Mine is very popular. So I put Mystic Mine outs in my deck. And I still, once I knew I was playing Tier, which was literally a day before the event, I spent a couple hours kind of in my head theorizing all the problems. And they were.
I missed the entirety of Tier and Tier Shizu format. I heard I didn't miss a whole heck of a lot.
Entirely hypothetical. It was on zero testing. So I had to theorize the potential problems that I can hope I was right, and I turned out to be right, thankfully. But I was also going based off of what I'd seen the previous weekend at the WCQ, so my theory had a base point. So yeah, Mystic Mine was something I wanted to make sure I was prepared for. And then I ended up having 2 searchable outs to Eradicator. I mean, 2 searchable outs to Mystic Mine in my deck. And I think it was super easy to prepare for. It really wasn't that much of a deck building like downside, and they had applications outside of Mystic Mine, but I mean, Mystic Mine really wasn't ever going to beat me at that event.
So Jesse might have been prepared, but nobody else was. João Paulo Lima showed up to YCS Rio and won with Mystic Mine Burn.
Nice.
The total cost of his deck at the time was like $100.
Nice.
His extra deck was filled with useless meme monsters that he was never gonna use anyways.
Bro, the Koala. Are you kidding me? Dude, that's a meta threat right there. Dude, you gotta watch out for that.
His main deck, 0 monster cards.
Legend.
In one of Yu-Gi-Oh!
We're literally playing No Face. It all comes back to No Face. No, please, I don't want to do it again. Please.
Yu-Gi-Oh's highest power formats ever
Wild.
of Tier Limits and Sprite. This was probably the most ridiculous YCS win ever. Afterwards, the clamoring couldn't be louder. However, competitively speaking, Mystic Mine would cool off after the raging summer. At the time when playing, it almost felt like a handshake between both duelists rather than a format consensus that the card was bad. Cosmic Cyclone would be found in every deck list, and slowly but surely, Tier Limits climbed the ranks to become one of the best decks. In between, Mystic Mine would even dodge a banlet, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Kept chugging along. The theme of having in-archetype removal for the card in Tier Limit's Heartbeat also more so pushing Mystic Mine away from extreme relevancy. It saw play in the fall, but far less than usual. But it was also on everyone's mind when deck building. There's a certain psychological element to losing to this card. Moving on into YCS Pasadena ushered in one of the most high power and skill intensive format in Yu-Gi-Oh! History.
Now, I made a video on it a while back, and it's safe to say I think I've gotten better at this video essay making thing. But anyways, hey, nearly the same group of Brits from my last video, the Disciples, rocked up with Mystic Mine and Tearlaments and had an incredibly good conversion rate.
But am I the only one seeing the funny in the logo, or is that just me?
So everyone knew they was the best deck, but no one had anything to copy. So you saw people just making deck building mistakes. And I think the reason we did it is that we streamlined deck building and we understood what were the win conditions of the mirror. Because at the end of the day, the one matchup that mattered was the mirror. And we realized that Mystic Mine was the best way to win the mirror. So that's what we did.
Thankfully, not everyone caught on to that. But in general, versus even the highest powered deck of the format, Mystic Mine wasn't good because of the Tearlaments field spell, Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino. This didn't stop the wider Yu-Gi-Oh community from hating the card. Mystic Mine as a card promoted the most toxic and unfun gameplay Yu-Gi-Oh may have ever seen. Mystic Mine was such a unique card because over the course of its existence, it turned from a gimmicky win condition into the meta-defining staple that was played in every deck, no matter how truly good it was. Like, people knew that this card was just awful, horrible, terrible, just anti-Yu-Gi-Oh! But people couldn't imagine it taking over the game in the way that it did. It had to go.
We're gonna keep moving on.
Simo!
Mystic Mine is back!
Oh my god, and beautiful right out of the starting gate.
Why they gotta ban my favorite card, bro?
Dude, felt. Genuine reaction of joy.
Little people mourn the death of Mystic Mine. It won a YCS. It created one of the most good but toxic formats ever to play in during the NAWCQ. And it was a card that had great intentions, but terrifying execution. But one thing that it did do was define Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Before we wrap this
yeah.
up, a quick shout out to the Patreon. For those who want to get more Yu-Gi-Oh! Insights, all the interviews done for this video will be posted in full, unedited down there. Whether you want to hear Jesse Cotton's experiences with Mystic Mine and his competitive mindset, the full story of YCS Hartford, or Jeff Leonard's competitive journey, you can check out my Patreon with all those full-length interviews there. I also want to shout out Blade Yugioh for giving me a massive wealth of information that kind of made this video completely possible. Come back into YugiTubing, buddy. And last but not least, shoutouts to Zachary Jones, Greek Eyes for Strict, and Michael Morales. Thanks for joining the bubble, folks, and maybe we'll make another tier to Top Cut. See you then. On that note, folks, peace.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great video. A lot of information. And even then, like, even today, right? Even in modern day, like, we're still seeing the same issues as I've said ad nauseum in regards to just back row and decks being unable to play around back row, which I think, I don't know. I think if I had to really reassess, I think that it shows we have so many negates in Yu-Gi-Oh! And especially when it comes to monster effects, right? We have so many negates, but the back row is still kind of existing in its own little microcosm, right? Where certain decks do have in-arc type removal, but I mean, you have to, go, Mystic Mine, Galaxy Cyclone, Twin Twisters. You have to go outside of that, or have tech options like Nightmare Phoenix to really start dealing with things like that, right? So it's really interesting to see how back row plays into modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And as well as, I mean, I guess that goes into trap cards and how trap cards are powered and designed in modernity, because trap cards are kind of the worst card type overall, right? Because you have to set it for it to be active. But I thought it was really cool. I enjoyed it, and I thought there was a lot of really cool information in this. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Really do appreciate it. Definitely go ahead and check out Garret Schier, and I do apologize for mispronouncing that. As always, links are in the description down below. Let me know if you played in this format and how it was. Let me know if you have similar issues with back row, or if it's maybe just me or people. If it's a subjective thing rather than an objective thing. And I will see you all in the next one.